Welcome to Unfamiliar Territory, an anime podcast hosted by two white dudes who've been friends for over 15 years. We talk about the history and influence of anime, as well as review anime new and old, believe in the stars, and sail away for the future into unfamiliar territory.
My name is Grant.
And I'm Brantley. Heads up, spoilers on the way. Check the description, see if you're safe to listen.
Alright. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello.
Yep.
Fuck.
Yep.
Oh, I should have known you would do like the downplaying it version of that.
No,
Hey. That's great. Hi everyone. Hey, this isn't Wonder Egg. What the fuck?
Okay.
Quick, close the tab. Leave.
So, we can't do Wonder Egg priority because it didn't finish. We got an episode 12, and that wasn't the finale. And we have to wait until June. And since Wonder Egg priority is all about theming and sort of like the overarching plot, I feel like it would be unfair to review the entire thing without actually having the ending.
Yeah, it feels like it's 1,000 miles away. But we'll get there. In the meantime, we've got other fun stuff to talk about, such as X-Arm.
So X-Arm is a Crunchyroll original. So Crunchyroll originals have been sort of hit or miss for the most part. I think they've done Jibiate, so miss. They've done Inspector, so that's a hit. And well, at least to me, it's not. Not a lot of people like it. Like, people don't hate it, but it's not super popular. But X-Arm is big miss.
It's a new low, and I definitely want to unpack a little bit like my feelings on what kind of impact it has. But yeah, maybe we should talk about what it is literally first, and then we can get rid of that baggage. So
X-Arm is a 3D CGI anime based off a manga of the same name, written by High Rock. High Rock doesn't have like his actual name. That's just his alias, his pen name. And it's terrible. It's bad on, like, it's overly nationalistic. It's super xenophobic. There's a lot of weird shit that happens throughout the entire show, and it's pretty on par with the manga itself, but we'll go into that a little bit later. The story follows a man named Akira who's likes girls and rice and hates technology, and that's it. That's his personality. He got turned into a brain robot as the X-Arm 00, and X-Arms are super weapons sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's your shonen equivalent power thing, like,
right? Like, this
we'll
person
burst the bubble on that. Yeah, it's your superpower equivalent.
Yeah, it's not good. It has some pretty decent ideas behind it. I think that a lot of people, when they were watching this, so I spent a lot of time on discussions for this show. I want to give a shout out to the Brotherhood of Masochism, which was dubbed in the final discussion on Reddit. There's a few folks that followed the entire show throughout the entire thing, and real quick, just gonna give a shout out to the people who watched the entire thing. Give me 1 second to find that list that I had up. So Decently Sized Potato did a lot of work into capturing really odd stills in that, and so good on you. There's Grown Boys, Metal Monster, and Halion. So all these people basically were around the entire thing, and they watched it all. So it was a little fun actually seeing like everyone's actual deconstruction of this incredibly shocking show. It goes to show that you don't need a great show to have interesting discussions. So Brantley, what made you What made us look at X-Arm and think we need to watch this?
Well, it is hot off the heels of Gibieto, which was, at the time, I recall you saying it was like the worst reviewed TV anime
It was
to date. And then this was taking the cake for that.
Yeah.
I was introduced to this show in the premises that it was not made by an anime studio, that it was made by sort of a TV production, like, effects staff of some sort, and was sort of like force-fitting anime production, and that just sounded awful. So it was like just curiosity peak, among then, like, just the clear rough patches this show has with quality, and fidelity. Yeah, I have feelings about, like, why I even feel comfortable talking about X-Arm in the first place. I don't know if we want to unpack that now or leave that for later.
Let's go through a quick synopsis of the show, because this is one of those that I feel like we can kind of delve into the plot of it a little bit more, because of how little people watch this. Like,
please make it quick.
No, we'll make it quick. We'll definitely make it quick. But this is one of those shows that had like 1,000 upvotes on the Reddit discussions with hundreds of comments, but I think only like 6 people watched this show. Right? Mm-hmm. Like people were coming to the discussion to see what the 6 or 7 people that were watching the show had to say. So the first episode is pretty whack in terms of what we get to see. So we get an ordinary high schooler, classic fucking start, who gets hit by a truck. Now, the most shocking thing about the first episode is the thumbnail on Verve, which is where we watch this, has his brother and him. And his brother is not 3D animated. So this show doesn't have only 3D animated characters. Like, you look at Gibieto or whatever it's called, that has 3D CGI monsters, but 2D characters, right? Mm-hmm. And it looks a little bit better because you're already kind of detached from them being human. But when you have a CGI human next to a 2D human, it's bad. It looks atrocious. And they interact. Like, they will, like, hold hands or lean on each other. This show has insanely high amounts of shortcuts done. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to blame the animation team, because this is so far out of their wheelhouse that I can't imagine having to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So you find out that he wakes up in 2030 when 2 girls named Alma and Minami are saving his brain from people who are trying to smuggle X-Arms. And they fight a guy that looks like the one dude from Ghost in the Shell who can phase through things. And that's his X-Arm, is he can phase through things. When you bring up shonen stuff, it does kind of have a lot of that influence, where you have like this one character who has this very, very specific power. It kind of reminds me of JoJo in that sense.
Yeah.
Where,
how are we going to outsmart this ability?
Right. But the problem is they dump that, like, 2 arcs in. And this is only a 12-episode show, but holy shit, does so much stuff happen.
Yeah, to me, this feels like it was made as a manga one-shot, and then expanded after that, so it burns out a ton of ideas at the beginning, and then doesn't come back to them.
Right.
And then everything else gets spread really thin after that. I have not looked into it farther than that, just purely a theory, but yeah. Continue. With this batshit.
So you get that part happening, and episode 2 is not like episode 1 and 2 cover the fight between Akira, Minami, Alma, and this guy with spectacles. I don't remember his name. Alma's an android, and she wears a terrible outfit, and Minami's a cop who also wears a terrible outfit. And they're part of this Japanese task force that is tasked to acquire X-Arms, which is really, really weird for a country to specifically have the only task force made to uncover super weapons, especially with how global this anime likes to be in terms of like global politics. And Akira is apparently at this point he thinks he's the reason that he destroyed the Japan in like 2020.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah. And the world kind of sucks. And
hey, there's another link to Gibieto all of a sudden. 2020 disaster.
Oh man, X-Arm
weirdly, weirdly timed like world destruction.
So you get kind of like an introduction to the characters. So the characters of X-Arm are not real. I do not remember like any of the character names besides Akira, Alba, and Minami. But like I've got to try and run and Yggdrasil because that name is stupid. So I'm gonna run down some of the fairly important characters, I guess. I will say that the wiki for this show and manga is hella sparse. No one has like edited it at all. It's wildly incomplete. I do want to go through it a little bit. So you have Kimura, who's like a sniper who's on their team, and then Kondo, who is a big buff dude with like a visor. Fun fact, both these dudes do not have their voice actors on my anime list. So like their voice actors aren't listed, despite the fact that they're pretty much one of the more prominent members of this show. You have Roku Chikage Rokokuen, she's like their commanding officer. You have Soichi Shiga, he's like their field officer. He's rarely in it.
He's basically like Zordon, but less important.
Yeah. You have Shuichi Natsume, who I don't actually know who it is because they don't have a sprite for him they don't have a sprite for him on the My Anime list.
What was the scientist's name?
Oh no, I think Shuichi Natsume is the dude that never opened his eyes, except when he was shocked.
Oh,
you're right. Was that him?
It might have been.
I don't.
Or
know.
is it the detective?
Right. There is a significantly hard. There's such a hard. It's so hard to trace all these characters because most of them don't do anything, and also I didn't care enough half the time. I think Kaori, was that the scientist gal?
That might. Yeah, I bet.
So, and there is a scientist that constantly had a lollipop in her mouth, and she wore like a Hawaiian shirt. Once again, terrible outfit. You know what? She had the best outfit. Just gonna hands down say that.
I was gonna say like by some inverse property, she's actually got the best outfit out of everyone.
Yeah. So they Akira joins this task force because he feels that he is not an X-Arm. He's not an android. He's a brain in a jar, but he can control androids and other technology. He's really good at it. So that happens. There's an episode where he cooks fried rice and everyone treats it like a big deal, which is wild because cooking fried rice is one of the easiest things you can do. Like, it's not a hard thing to do, but everyone in this show seems so shocked by his ability to cook fried rice. They're like, hell yeah, this guy makes the best fried rice. And he might just make really good fried rice.
It is Akira we're talking about. So,
it is.
Maybe it's just like that, like, oh wow, I never would have expected this guy to have, like, you know, a noticeable knack for something.
That makes sense. That makes a little bit more sense.
It's the lowest bar has been kicked up one notch.
Yes, that's fair. So they're hanging out in their little apartment, and he gets all existential about being an android or a human because he took control of Alma's body. So here's something really, really bizarre about this show. And this ties back to the manga, and we'll talk about that later. But the show has the android kiss the other girl, Minami. Alma and Minami have to kiss so that Akira can take control of Alma's body. And I don't know if I missed something, but I have no idea how that works.
So what's going on is essentially, think of it as if Minami has the passcode that allows Alma to be used by Akira, who is an X-arm. So Minami has clearance, but instead of just having like a passcode, something that can be stolen, it uses her DNA. So it's like, it uses her like, tongue or whatever. So it is, I think they refer to it as like a genetic lock. Which on its own, I guess isn't a terrible idea to have something that's a little more secure. I mean, it's like, sort of like, use your, like an eye scanner or something. But it's, clearly it's also for like the lesbian wank of it. This is the bad feeling kind of.
I remember
male perspective lesbian.
Yeah. It's not perceived as like a loving or romantic thing. It is solely objectification.
Yeah,
which makes it bad. I did jokingly say that if they kiss, I will make this show a 5 out of 10 on my anime list. That was one of the first things I made, but I was under the implication that it would be romantic and not objectification, and it was objectification, so it doesn't count.
Yeah,
can't hold that.
We're in the clear. Get off our backs.
So they, after they're hanging out, there's this literal like dictator who's committed a genocide, who Japan is holding because it's good for political discourse or something. I don't remember. I rewatched this episode because we had to talk about the nationalistic themes that they have in episode 3 and 4. And it talks a lot about how the UN is useless and how global economies don't really help. And like there's definitely some issues you can tackle in regarding the UN and, having other countries influence other countries. But once again, X-arms are a global threat to society. It's so weird that this show refuses to have any other nation be competent at dealing with X-arms.
Except apparently the United States, which creates like a counter weapon, and then they give that to Japan.
Yeah, but
that's not great either.
No, it's not. That there's some thematic issues with that. But so this dictator has a maid android that is also his bodyguard, who's using his X-arm that can teleport things to different spaces. It's a lot of nothing, although some of the animation goofs in this are really, really good. There is a UN general who's American and also 2D. This is what I learned, that if you are 2D in this show, you are you won't have action scenes, right? The 2D animated people just stand and do mouth flaps, except for Soshui Shiga. He has 3D for some reason, although he just does mouth flaps a lot too. So they make this UN guy. His name is UN Lieutenant Neville. He is American and he wears a cowboy hat. And he has like a digital camo outfit. But the digital camo outfit is not actually his outfit. Instead, his outfit, his like army clothes are a transparency. And then behind him is a camo texture. So as he's walking, the texture isn't following him, and it looks like you are seeing through a window that is his outfit.
Yeah, it's like a masked texture.
It looks it's terrible, and it's obvious too. And also, he has a cowboy hat. Why? Because he's American. Which I dig. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's super fucking funny. And so he's incompetent and corrupt and being paid off by the dictator to protect him. But then the dictator betrays him, and I think he dies. I don't know. He uses the little robots that they have at like Boston Dynamics to try and fight the main characters, because they're out of their jurisdiction because they're police officers, and they are in what they call the SES, which is a international body of like on Japan. And so it's bad. There's times where the robots will pop into different frames because reasons.
Grant did catch one where they're doing a zoom, and for just one frame, I can't believe he caught it, just a single frame where one of the robot dogs reappears for a frame and then disappears again. I think it's in episode 4.
Yeah.
If you can go out and find that for yourself, I think it's on the left side of the screen. It's there. It just goes to show that this, like, I swear the show had no time for cleanup.
Oh,
there's just no time to, like, sort of quality check this. Oof.
Yeah. So during this, the maid character kills the dictator and keeps his, like, removes his vitals, and he's just like a husk that is performing biological functions because he told her to protect him. And they kind of go into this whole thing: are androids people? Do they have free will, or do they not? And like, that's not a unique idea. That's been done since the 70s. Like, I mean, not even like earlier than that. Like, Isaac Asimov is, has talked about this before, and he's
Turing test. Woo.
Yeah, right. And so it's like, do they have free will? And it's bad. And Akira almost kills the maid, and then he decides not to, because then he would just be a weapon. And this causes him to retreat into his mind where everyone is in high school with him. It makes no sense, and it makes less sense in the manga. But basically all of the people at the X-Arm retrieval division are trying to fix his thought process, because he thinks that he's a weapon, but they need to show that he's human. And then this rogue AI gets into his brain conscious and starts trying to kill them, and then they help him. That episode's really, really weird. And it doesn't really make sense. It's filler, right? It's like, oh, look at all your favorite characters wearing high school outfits, and that's it. Has no relevance to the rest of the story, except for it introduces Yggdrasil, who is the rogue AI. So then the show goes into its final arc. The final arc is the last 6 episodes, where they are set up to go to an auction to buy 2 X-Arm with a bunch of other people. You have the United States has a weapons dealer that's in there, and you have what's his name? You have Soma, right, who is Minami's younger brother. Then their parents were killed by an X-Arm, and he hates the military-industrial complex, so he joins forces with a guy named Al-Jard.
Al-Jard, yeah.
And there is one moment of this show that almost has, like, legitimate themings and, like, legitimate criticisms of, like, the military-industrial complex, because Al-Jard is like, hey, the United States killed my family, and we weren't doing shit, and I want revenge on them. And you're like, yeah, that's a legitimate thing that happens, right? Where the United States is practicing big ol' imperialism, and it causes people to die that shouldn't have died. And then he is criticized. He's criticized as the villain for wanting to take revenge on the military-industrial complex. So it doesn't last very long.
Mm-hmm. It's the centrist route out of, like, well, you can be mad about it, but you can't be violent.
Right.
It's like, okay.
And Minami's brother's the same way, right? Like, they teamed up for a reason, because they hate the military-industrial complex, because they're all using these X-Arms. There's a really funny scene in this where they're fighting a man who has an X-Arm to turn off sound and sight, I think. Or is it just sound? Like but he turns out the lights. And so Minami's fighting him, the X-Arm user, and there's no sound. But there's no, like, usually when there's no sound in things, they have like an ambient, like,
hum or something,
or like a muffled sound to
Yeah.
to make it so it's not awkward for the viewers, but it's hella awkward. And so you see Minami fighting this guy with a knife, and then it cuts to Jared. I need to learn how to pronounce his name.
In the show they pronounce it Al-Jard, but like
Al-Jard.
I don't know if that's like a responsible and appropriate pronunciation of the actual name. So.
Right. Oh, there is no D at the end of his name, so that makes sense. I thought there was. But he's naked. like it just cuts to him just like standing.
Instantly.
Just standing there being naked. You don't see him take off his clothes. He doesn't like rip off just his shirt. He takes off all his clothes except his underwear. So he's just standing.
It's like when you pause the game and unequip, just like.
Yeah. It's hilarious. It's fucking funny. And he does it so that he can feel the knife's edge get touched to his body so he can follow this guy around. Like, it's apparently taken straight out of Bleach. Like, that happens in Bleach, apparently. So like, it's so dumb. And so they have this auction, and they're trying to fight, because the auction isn't who can pay the most money, it is actually who can kill the other groups. You meet these two other X-Arm users. One has, like, bees, and the other one has, like, an eye patch. And they fight for a little bit, and then they disappear. They are in one episode. I think they just leave, but they don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't explain where they go. And during this entire time, you have this auctioneer who has a skeleton face and long anime hair, and he's amazing. And he's Akira's brother's clone. Right? Like, just not a non-character. He should be a character, but he isn't. I forgot to mention the cat robots. They're not very important. I just want to mention that there are big-tittied cat girl robots that they use to fight, and it's really bad.
It's like one dude. And like, when we were watching in the anime, we're like, this feels really out of place. Now that Grant's read the manga, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
Yeah, so Minami gets mad at her brother for joining a group to fight the military-industrial complex, and, like, almost part of Soma's group, her brother's group, because reasons. Like, she's programmed to do it, which is really weird because this show just had an episode that talked about, like, the free will of androids, and it totally stops talking about it. Minami tries to shoot her brother. It's really funny. And then you find out that there is another person that's working named Beta who's trying to get them to kill each other too. And also Yggdrasil shows up because now she's part of the group now as like a android. She helps defeat the bee girl. And that's it. That's when the bee girl disappears. Yggdrasil comes in, kicks her in the face, and then she's gone. If they mention her, I don't remember.
I don't either.
It's not good. It's terrible. And so you find out that Beta is Akira's clone, made by his brother, and he's the one that actually did the big murders in 2020, not Akira. So they actually kind of remove one of the most interesting parts about Akira, is that he did a big murder, and he didn't remember doing a big murder, so he had an actual, like, character arc, and trying to overcome the fact that he killed a ton of people. And then it's like, no, you didn't. So he's just nothing.
Mm-hmm. This happens. Great. This is not like the second time, at least, this has happened where they're like, no, Akira, don't say you're a war criminal. You're so sexy, haha. Like, it is a total, like, removal of Akira from consequence. And it's irritating at best, and, like, terribly negligent at worst.
Yeah, so
Oh, boy.
I'm going through the episodes real quick just as a way to kind of get a remembrance. Yeah, the B girl's never mentioned again. She just gets kicked in the face, and it's just like, yep, she's gone.
Deleted.
Gone. They don't even say like we put them under arrest, as far as I know.
Yeah, they just get away.
Yeah, they just get away.
Whatever.
So the last 4 episodes are kind of whack. One of the dudes that they were on their team, he had like shoulder length hair, and he was boring. I don't really know what he did, but he's not even in the like opening. He's not even on like the concept art. He gets his head chopped off, and it turns out that they use his head as like a way to be a conduit for Beta, and Beta brings in all these different X-arms from different countries because, well, not X-arms, just like giant robots. And then he tries to use them to destroy Japan. Akira takes control of all the X-arms and then tries to sacrifice himself by EMPing all of Japan, and that would kill him. And then everything's okay in the end.
We literally end on like a blue skies thing.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, like, Soma dies. Minami's brother gets turned into he's mostly android, and it's like, are you a human or not? And he's like, no, I'm not a human. Alma comes back, and she's like, I'm a real boy. It's like, I have free will, except for the fact that I only can be controlled by Akira when I do anything remotely okay. It's a mess, right? Oh, and the scientist girl is also controlled by Beta, I think.
No, at the end she gets controlled by the scientist who created Akira, Alpha, and Beta.
Right. It's
what
not
a season 2 stinger, huh?
Yeah, it's
can't wait for that to pay off.
It's so bad. And when this show was coming out, a lot of people were talking about how they felt bad for the mangaka because his idea got turned into a terrible show.
Yeah.
There are some weird animation stuff I want to talk about in the last few episodes. There's constantly smoke just everywhere.
That's through like the whole show. Yeah, that's one of the funniest things to me. It's just that to give the scenes more texture or more visual interest, I guess, they just constantly put this same fog and just stick it out in front of the scene.
And it's like a looping animation too. Also, Beta turns into Grimace and gets real big and tries to eat everything. That looked really good.
He turns into Sigma's head from Mega Man X4. It's kind of
yeah. It looks bad. Akira's brother's clone sacrifices himself to give Akira all the X-arms, and then they give back Ogre to the United States with like 7 X-arms. It's a terrible, terrible thing that happens. And that's X-arm. And if you're asking yourself, did I miss something? No, it's just confusing. It's just a mess.
It's too fast and too slow all at the same time, which is a shockingly high amount of media Grant and I cover, I feel.
Yeah. They don't spend their time developing the things that need to be developed, and they take their time on stupid shit.
Yeah.
In terms of animation, like, I feel like that's kind of the big thing that caught people's attention from this, is just how poorly made it is. And yeah, it reminds me a lot of season 1 Ruby, right? Where there's some serviceable fight scenes sometimes. And you can kind of, and for season 1 of Ruby, you were like, oh, there's a small animation team here, right? It's literally a passion project. And if this was that, I would give it a pass. If this was some small YouTube channel who's working with a team of like 6 or 7 animators, I would give the animation a pass. There's times where I think back to when I was learning how to do video editing back in high school, and I would leave in weird cuts and weird scenes, and I would because I didn't have time, right? I was doing it for projects and a grade, so I'd be like, that's fine, I don't need that. But this show was made like the Crunchyroll original, right? And Crunchyroll originals, once again, varying degrees of quality. A lot of people liked Tower of God, which is also a Crunchyroll original. And like they had God of High School. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of those shows. I don't think they're particularly interesting to me, but they're not misproduced, right?
Mm-hmm.
So X-Arm is just wild in that sense.
Yeah. I want to place my own note here before we go any further. Essentially to sort of elaborate why we're comfortable kind of being like rude to this show's production. We've hinted at it already. This show is not made under normal circumstances. We've got like no ill will towards like the animators of this project. But okay, here's my rant. Okay, so quality in animation is something I don't think like quantifies well at all. Like we can sit here and be like, wow, that One Punch Man scene looks really good because they animated it on ones instead of like twos or threes. But that alone doesn't make it a good scene. It's not just resolution. It's not just, oh, like, the lighting is really sophisticated. They have a lot of light sources here, or the shadows are really, whatever. It's not about, like, how much primary motion is there, how much secondary motion is there, how many visemes do the characters have when they do their mouth flaps? Like, you know, what kind of effects are they using in their post-processing? Like, none of it matters in an isolated case. You know, it's the kind of thing that is just highly dependent on context and subtext and literal text. And that's quality, right? Those are things that are subjectively constructed. It does not make sense to me to try to quantify it. You know, it does not make sense to me to sit here and be like, wow, they just, you know, their mouths hang open whenever they talk and it's just this back and forth motion. Like, yeah, that's part of it, but like, it's kind of irrelevant at a point. Like, I guess like the way I determine quality of a thing is like the difference between intention and execution. So if someone's like, I want to make a small project, and they make a small project, then my expectations for its execution, fidelity, are going to be different than if someone's like, we're going to make this big thing, we're going to make it sell, right? Like, I think that's important to denote. And I have that liberty as like a consumer of this media. I'm not a stakeholder. I'm not a career holder in this case. And so I get to just have whatever opinion I want from my armchair and throw it out, right? And so, therefore, it seems like quality is the best way to go. Yeah, we look at it all in context, what decisions are being made and whatever. The development team behind this doesn't have that kind of liberty. They have to meet certain expectations. They have to quantify to tell someone, yes, we are doing a good job. Please don't take the money away so we can keep doing our jobs and provide for our families, keep living, etc. That is the tragedy of current day art. Contemporarily, I hate it. I think it's, you know, why things like this happen. And I don't have any intention, you know, Grant or I don't have any intention of like criticizing the artist's work here because we understand the shitty conditions that it was made in. It's the same reason that I don't want someone to criticize my bad cooking, because I don't do cooking for, you know, a living as a practice to something to like, you know, truly gain from or expect to be praised for, right? This team was not that with animation either. You know, this team was not trained in 3D or 2D anime. You need time and you need practice, but I also don't think that X-Arm would be better by a certain measure of that. If we just say, like, how many more years would it take to make X-Arm good? I don't know, and I don't care. again, that's quantifying something that I don't care to quantify. So what I want to do is blame the executives, the higher ups, who decided they wanted to take this on and force this upon a development studio. And then with that laid out, that we understand sort of who's, responsible for making this happen, I want to embrace the fact that this media does exist, and it's really funny. It's just so funny to look at, man.
The short moments when other people would join us watching it was some of the best shit of my life in terms of just comedy.
Mm-hmm. It's just, what the fuck is this? Like,
it was, and when you get desensitized to it a little bit, you kind of like relax in your chair and you kind of watch it, kind of understanding what it is, and then someone sees the dead silent fight and they're like, what the fuck is happening? And it pops back into you and you're like, oh, this show's bad. And it's funny. And one of my favorite things, I decided to listen to Rise Again performed by Airflip, which is the opening song to the show, and it is a banger. And
unironically,
I like
it. We've fallen to it.
And I was looking at the comments, and all the top comments are like, man, when the best part about your anime is the opening, and then the channel that posted it, the record label that does Airflip, liked it. And then someone posted, boy, I like if you shit on this anime, the record label YouTube channel will just like your comments. Liked. So if you go to the Rise Again YouTube channel, the Rise Again video on YouTube, you will see that the people that made this song know that the anime isn't good. It's hilarious. Full 20 kick rock music, and they just keep liking and they are an official channel, and they just keep liking how people love the song but hate XR.
Wow. Burn that bridge.
Yeah.
Cow.
In the we gotta talk about the director. I think it's time. I think we talk.
It's time. Go ahead and lay out exactly what the hell happened here.
So when I was reading the discussions, people kept talking about how, oh man, the actor only does live action shows. No wonder it's trash. Oh man, I bet the manga's really good. Some of the art looks really good. So I took it upon myself to watch all of his movies and read all of the manga. It's garbage all the way down. So the director of this wonderful anime is Yoshikatsu Kimura. He is a live action director, and when people started talking about that, I was very confused, as if maybe he has some good movies or something that people liked. So I watched Karate Girl and High Kick Girl. Those are the two I watched. He technically has 4 movies, and I could only find 2. And I will profess this: when I watched both these movies, I watched them at 1.5 times speed, translated by YouTube's auto translator. So it wasn't great, but I watched them and they're bad. The only redeeming thing about these movies is that they're karate movies. So it's, get in a fight with a bunch of different people, kick some faces, and then do some exposition. And the
exposition.
What?
Exposition.
Oh goddamn.
Arm.
Fuck off. So Karate Girl is the one that I'm gonna talk a little bit about, because I when I watched High Kick Girl, I was doing other things, so I don't want to be super critical of that one, even though I probably could. So Karate Girl is about a girl who trained to be good at karate when she was or is it kung fu? I think it's karate.
Martial arts.
Martial arts. They train to. It's karate. Yeah. They train to with their dad in their dojo to be good at karate, and then their uncle comes in and kills the dad and steals her sister. The reason he does this is because he wants the black belt that the dad has. And this show's not mystical. There's no like fantasy elements to it whatsoever. The black belt doesn't have magical powers. It's just a fucking black belt. And as he's doing one of the best parts about this movie is during this time the main girl character is dying, and with his last breath, the dad karate chops her, and it brings her back to life. So that's fun. There is an American in it named Keith.
Oh, I know what that's. I know that's actually a thing.
What?
That's CPR.
No,
that's hold on. No, that's I have a joke. Hold on. That's concussive punch resuscitation.
so
CPR. Okay, move on. Just go on. Move on.
I don't think
failed joke.
It was good. I don't think
no, it wasn't.
I don't think Keith speaks Japanese, the actor, or if he does, it's very little. His name is Richard Helston. He's also a black belt in karate. So the one salvageable thing about this is the actors are all like actual karate practicers, karate people. I don't know what the term for martial artists, karate martial artists. And so the fight scenes are actually pretty well choreographed, except it is completely undone by terrible cinematography. So you know that's like a director thing, right? You see the way that the cameras are placed, and you see how actors are delivering their lines, and that's a problem that a lot of directors that can go to the directors. It's not necessarily an actor problem, but the director isn't giving them enough information or enough direction. They're not directing, and this show is so bad with that. It's incredible. But Richard Helston says "good" 3 times in a row in Japanese. And that's the only time he speaks Japanese. Anytime he says anything else, it's basically some form of, you lose, you die. And that's all he says. The only user review on the IMDb page is rating the women, and it's hella misogynistic. But that's the thing, right? Like, the main girl has, like, a scene where she's fighting in a gi, and then she gets a message from the main bad guys that, hey, we have your sister. You will never get her. And so she goes to fight them. Now, of course, during her transition from going from practicing karate to doing a karate on the bad guys, she changes into her high school uniform and fights in a skirt.
Oh, you know.
Yeah. It's not good. And it makes total sense why this guy would pick up X-Arm, the manga. So, Yoshikatsu Kimura talked about why he was picked for it, and he talks about how he knows how to do animation, and how, since it's 3D, he knows how to use, like, human bodies to do that. Like, that has anything to do with it. And the people that worked on it is his special effects studio. So, not an animation company, not some random special effects studio. It is his special effects studio. It's wild. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe the manga's better. The manga's worse, which is why, like the art is better. I'll say that. There's some good art. It's serviceable. But it is hella misogynistic.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a single female character in that show, and I mean in the manga, that you don't see her tits. Like, straight up frontal nudity. Within moments of seeing them. I once counted when we see the maid girl, her name is like Imaru, I think. I counted how many frames she had before she was naked, and it was 5. 5 panels before she was naked. The guy that can go through things tries to molest Minami, and they play it off as a joke. The characters are constantly like fawning over Akira. He falls into boobs all the time. It is an ecchi. It's tagged ecchi, right? That is a thing. And it's bad. One of the worst parts about this is there's a part where, so in the manga, before they deal with the genocidal dictator with the maid, they go to a brothel that is ran by robot androids. There's also a character in this arc that isn't in the anime, whose daughter was killed by the genocidal dictator, who wants to get revenge and kill him. And he is stopped by the police for trying to do so. And because they prevent him from killing the dictator, 37 million people in Tokyo die.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't mention this in the anime, but during the last part of that fight scene where the maid girl is disappearing a bunch of stuff, she's just killing a bunch of people in Tokyo, like random innocents. It's stupid.
Wow.
And so they need to go to a brothel to figure out where this assassin android is. And I'm not against going into dark places and kind of criticizing the aspects of sex work or that are negative or following the misogyny and the problematic elements of brothels and prostitution and talking about the themes behind having androids do this. I'm not against that. I understand that sometimes when you're wanting to do media and you want to criticize something, you need to have it in your media. But X-Arm doesn't treat it as anything other than a set piece. And they use it as a set piece, and Akira, in control of Alma's body, has a sex scene. A full-on, like, couple panel sex scene with another android, with the maid android. And that's hella bad. That's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
That's
some Omicron shit.
Right. It's I am in another person's body and I'm going to have sex in this person's body. It's really, really bad. And it's played off as a joke again. It's awful. So the manga's bad. And it's not fully translated. It's only translated up into the part where they go to the high school. And the high school part is, they describe it in the manga as Akira living through his high school life as if it's a dating sim. And so there are just horrible sex shots. It's because it's his mind. He's being a little pervert. It's okay. But it's not. And it's a joke again. They don't take the time to actually delve into these issues. It's so disgusting.
Once again, Akira faces no consequences whatsoever.
Nope, none. And not even in the manga does he face consequences.
The author's self-insert to have his way with whatever messages he wants to send, and then also just perv on anyone and anything to desired. Like,
yeah. Also, for some reason, Akira's hair isn't the same color in the anime as it is in the manga. In the manga, it's red, and in the anime, it's like brown, dark brown. There's no reason for that. I just kind of wanted to bring that up.
Unwatchable.
It's unwatchable. Terrible show. I do want to read some things from the wiki real quick, if that's okay with you.
Please do.
So the wiki has very, very sparse, and I think one dude has, and it's editable by anybody. And no one is, like, maintaining it. So, this is all of Alma's character page. Alma. She normally acts emotionless, but is not completely so, sometimes smiling at her partner Minami's action. Alma is a prototype android with a 4-year lifespan. She was given a job as a member of the police force and partnered with Minami. They kiss sometimes, whenever the plot wants them to. And it would be really hot if the light of Jesus didn't blind me every time they did. I'm changing religions. Here's Minami's. She is a hothead and brash. She also can't stop smiling for some reason. Biography. She became a police officer and was partnered with Alma. She has no tragic backstory. That's it. Nothing else. Akira. Akira was a normal high school boy. However, while he had a phobia of technology, he also had the skill to easily repair broken devices. In 2014, after stepping up and saving a girl, he was unfortunately run over by a truck. 16 years later, the police duo Alma and Minami are on mission to obtain X-Arm number 00. However, they find themselves up against X-Arm number 8. Despite desperate, they activate X-Arm number 00. Akira's consciousness awakens within the superweapon body, and he must now cooperate with the police with the goal of getting his lost memories and body back. Throughout the show, Akira is shown to be unable to close his mouth. It could be inferred that this is a result of the accident in 2014, although this is unconfirmed. It's so... there's one more. An anime television series adaptation was announced to the release of the manga's 12th volume on December 18th, 2018. The series is produced by Visual Flight and directed by Yoshikatsu Kimura, with Tomi Morton in charge of the scripts and So Kimura as composer. The main series staff has no experience working on anime. It was originally set for a 2020 release, but it was delayed to 2021 due to COVID. The opening theme is Rise Again, performed by Airflip, while the ending theme is Diamond Shine, performed by Dizzy Sunfist. Despite the fact that this is the best show ever, it seems people did not like this show. It is currently the third worst ranked anime on myanimealist.net and the worst anime under the TV category. So yeah, no one cares about this. And it comes down to the fact that it's just bad. It's bad, misogynistic, and there is almost no redeeming qualities to X-Arm.
Yeah, this feels unsalvageable. Honestly, there are moments of clarity that you've mentioned where it's like, oh, are they gonna bring up this thing? Are they gonna do something about it? It's like there are times where X-Arm will bring up social or global topics that I have heard Japanese people discuss. Mention, hey, this is a problem. But it feels like all of the solutions are just backwards or wrong or reprehensible. It's just kind of gross in the anime and in the manga, especially the manga, but the anime doesn't get away scot-free either. I'll say I wholly agree the anime is better than the manga simply because you're getting less of what is bad. It's truncated. They're ripping off the Band-Aid as opposed to slowly peeling it. Yeah, real quick, would you recommend this to anyone?
No.
Because I know we had that dilemma with Gibieto, but
I think that this show is painful at times. The only reason that I enjoyed watching it at a lot of times was because of Brantley's insight on how this would be made and how it would be used and what problems came to make this look like this. There was a lot of insight with that, and that was fun. And I don't think that there's much enjoyment outside of that. I really liked watching it, but I'm kind of a masochist in that kind of way. I love shitty. I love watching disasters unfold as media. Yeah. But X-Arm's long. We watched 5 hours of this show, and I constantly wanted to talk about it, and I constantly wanted to see the next episode. X-Arm Sundays were something that I was super, super excited about. But if you don't have anyone, or if you don't have the knowledge of what goes into making this kind of stuff, or if you're not really interested in watching disastrous media, I cannot recommend this to anyone.
Yeah. By the way, do you, at least to take one thing away from this, I'm curious, what is the one thing out of the show that does consistently make you laugh? Like if you had to like boil it down to one thing where it's like, you know what, this got me through it, what would that be?
Dude, it has to be the facial expressions. It has to be just the deadpan stares when something super serious is going on, or when they're trying to talk serious and the characters are just smiling like goofy ass. It's so funny because there's nothing better than just the dead looks of these empty eyes staring at each other as the world is crumbling behind them.
Yeah.
Oh, and the explosions are really bad.
Yeah, for being an effects team, for some reason they didn't really have the opportunity to use that well. I don't know, technically what's going on there, but just there's some effects that look awful. Where it's not even the effect itself looks bad, but how they use it. So, for example, a character will put up like essentially a force field, but like they'll freeze the effect in place. So it's just this awkward looking like purple energy barrier that's not like glowing or pulsating at all. It's just stuck there on that one keyframe. It just looks bad and wrong. Like if they would have like rotated it at least, then it would have like that semblance of like activity or motion.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't happen. For whatever reason, it did not happen. Yeah, I think for me, it's like it's due in part to the expressions, but like how you'll realize just how tropey the characters are based on their voice acting alone.
Mm-hmm.
Where like despite what face they're putting on, it's just like, oh yeah, this character just is this. Like all the times that Akira is trying to hack something, and it just involves him like screaming and running and flailing his arms. It's such a shonen like I'm gonna do it yell. It is it hits escape velocity out of like whatever else X-Arm is trying to be in terms of like a geopolitical technological thriller, and just becomes like, oh yeah, these are tropes. Yeah, Alma just is like the emotionless android bot. Akira just is like try hard shonen boy. Minami is just like like wafy, overly caring sidekick character. Like it becomes so like it writes itself almost, and then makes you think to like, wow, I wonder what barreling through the manga would feel like. Yeah, that was just always kind of funny. That and the fog. We already mentioned the fog, but just like there's something about like cutting from a scene that did not have fog to cutting to a different angle, and suddenly there's just a lot of fog there in places where it doesn't belong. It's just really funny, because it's so transparent. You're like, they're going from like inside of the building talking to the scientist lady. Probably is her name Alice? Was that it?
I don't fucking remember.
Whatever. Talking to scientist lady. And then they cut back and like Akira's like up in the air, like dropping down on someone, and there's just a lot of fog laid over him. And it's like, why? Like the camera's pointed upwards. Like it's not how that works. And it's, as you've mentioned, it's always the same fog effect. It's just like horizontally layered on the screen, so like the depth doesn't really make sense. Mm-hmm. It's purely to distract you from like the fact that the models don't have a lot of texture to them, and that they're not animating a lot, and it's the kind of thing that throws you back out of it. You're like, oh yeah, that's what this show is.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like we've kind of already described the themes, but just to recap, this is like centralist technocracy dream. Technocracy? I don't know how to pronounce it. Technocratic. It's... I feel like if there's one thing X-Arm is about, it's about military exceptionalism. Like, if you are a member of the police or military, you work on different standards than everyone else
Right.
in this contemporary world. Akira's the big example because he literally never has consequences for anything he does. Everyone just forgives him. Everyone says, no, you're different. Even when he wants to make these cogent points about, hey, I'm a weapon that shouldn't exist, they're like, no, it's okay. You can stick around. Like, why? You're actively trying to disarm all the other X-arms. You pulled off an investigation to obtain other X-arms and seize control of them, but you willfully just allow Akira to, as they describe, as a sentient being, be in charge of himself as an incredibly destructive weapon with a history of destruction, according to what they had thought before they realized, the whole beta thing.
Right. Yeah. It's good.
It's everything that, like, it's the wrong interpretation of everything you might see in, like, Ghost in the Shell and Metal Gear. Like, fundamentally getting that stuff incorrect and just being like, oh yeah, justice and weaponry. It's and I feel like it's consistent, like really consistent. It's never about them, like, establishing equity and, like, leveraging, justice in the world. It's always just reactive, like, egalitarianism, where it's like, all right, we're gonna set things back to neutral, and we do that by arresting somebody or killing them. And it's done by a bunch of people who have more authority and military power than anyone else, and they're very difficult to displace. Okay, Alma gets taken over, like, they just convert her, and then they're just like, oh no, well, we didn't have a backup plan for that, so I guess that's that for now. Like, are you kidding me? Like, they simply did not have any kind of, like, self-consciousness about what this military constitution is. There's never any reflection on, like, how dangerous and exploitable the X-arms are until, like, the end. And even then, they, Akira tries to pull his, like, whole, like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of all the weaponry and make the entire country of Japan an exposed, vulnerable liability in the process by EMPing it. Like, granted, a teenager probably would come to that solution, but then they play it off as, like, the right thing to do because everything goes to blue skies normal again. Like, it's kind of terrifying. They're using these weapons of terror without, like, any guilt about it whatsoever. Tons of double standards. We've already talked about Aljard and Soma, how they're not allowed to take revenge, but, like, they're like, sorry, Soma, we have to kill you for this. It's like Soma hasn't even, like, as they've observed, if I remember correctly, killed anyone yet. Like, maybe he's, like, been part of, I don't know, disruptive action and, like, murder off screen. I don't remember. But, like, again, it feels like they're trying to say, hey, there's a possibility of violence here, so we're gonna do a violence on you to stop that from happening. Which flattens any kind of nuance whatsoever.
Right.
Find threat, follow your orders to get rid of threat. It's just that simple. Did they even, like, arrest anybody in this show?
I mean, I guess the B-girl got arrested, but I'm not sure.
Did she? Or did she just, like, escape?
No, because, like, they kicked her and they choked out her bodyguard, and then it cut to them fighting Beta. So either they just did a quick and dirty execution on those two, but that seems out of place for that group of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just... It's like... It's half-baked boot boy stuff. It's just it. At least this tragedy was put to an end, and we can all be happy about it. There's zero realistic thought to, like, why did this happen in the first place? Mm-hmm. The scientist behind all this gets off scot-free as, like, a contemplative character at the end, like, yes, humanity is predisposed to war. It's in the annals of history, and it's like, you're not fucking helping. Like, what? Like, quit your, fuck.
Yeah. I will say that the X-Arm manga does have a second volume, and then it got canceled. I have a conspiracy theory about this. I believe that this might have been X-Arm's last hurrah. My God.
What? Did you come up with something?
No. I will finish my conspiracy theory, and then I'm going to talk about what I just fucking found.
Okay.
So, X-Arm was needed to be funded. It wasn't doing well in the sales, and they needed to get it to become popular. So they're like, oh, we'll do a quick and dirty anime. You know, get some. They can't afford a big name animation studio. So let's just see if there's anyone willing to do this for cheap. And the guy that the director was super into breaking into anime as a medium. In any of his interviews, he talks about that. I think they just like got him because he wanted to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a Hail Mary to get X-Arm popular enough so that it can continue being made, and it didn't. That's gonna be my
shame.
That's gonna be my my conspiracy theory. Also, there's X-Arm perfume.
Okay.
I went to the Twitter because I've been bothering them about hiring me on to help them write season 2. And apparently there is a X-Arm perfume that you can buy.
Do they describe what's the scent?
Hold on, it's in Japanese, so let me get the old Google Translator out so I can read this. It is. I'll read it to you. From X-Arm, Ue de Parfum, with the image of the worldview is now available. The sexy illustrations of Minami and her partner Alma, and the blue base package designed with the image of the near future of 2030. It is the perfume that you can feel the worldview of the battle from X-Arm. It depicts the battle between the criminal organizations and the police over the supernatural weapons. X-Arm's perfume is a gentle scent of bergamot with rose to deep scent of musk express the work set in the world 2030, in which police officer Minami and her partner Alma do their job.
Oh, I hate that.
It's 3,000
Oh.
It's 3,000 yen.
Oh.
Just in case you guys anyone they will not ship it to me. I cannot buy it. It is not available in the United States.
That's so weird.
And like
that's like really gross. Like
well, like this company makes anime perfumes. Like there's
that's
code
gross.
There's Code Geass ones. It's called Fairy
Chessboard
Tale
mahogany.
Fairy Tale perfume. Just in case y'all want to smell like Pizza Hut from the favorite anime Code Geass.
Oh, we should go up.
These are sanitizers.
Oh, they're hand sanitizers?
Well, no, the X-Arm's perfume, but these are sanitizers. Ah, man. What were you gonna say?
Why?
Sorry, I'm very.
I was gonna say we should just spend the rest of the podcast coming up with awful scents. Jesus. Ooh. One for Ava, which is just the smell of blood.
The smell of spoiled milk from that one episode of Naruto. There we go. We've done it. We've made all of the anime perfumes.
When you smell it, you in the back of your head, you just hear dun 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 dun.
So do you have any hypotheticals for me and X-Arm?
I do, but before we share one, I do have like a theory about this show. I don't know how to describe it other than that.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so I was thinking about X-Arm, and it's weird, like sort of almost like avant-garde experience you have watching it because it's just not normal. So I was like collecting my thoughts on like what is this show from like a very literal take. So Stiff body movements, like mostly like staging and then standing and like speaking, right? There's very minimal blood, and a lot of that blood is like darkened out, so you like it's not red. So it could just be anything. I think even like, did we see Soma had green blood at one point?
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyways, like
Yes,
there's rarely like,
because we were shocked by it.
yeah, it's usually like leftover blood. There's very rarely a splatter that isn't hidden by a shadow or something, and it's still, even that doesn't happen very often. Rarely does anyone's like body or their like fabric get destroyed. Like if someone gets like stabbed, they hide it. They don't like, you know, pierce through the clothing, or they'll pull a Soma where like they'll have a laser beam pass in front of them and they'll just swap the model so that it's like the model of him that's half of him instead of like, you know, breaking it apart. Which, like, you know, that happens, but it's just they did a very bad job of hiding it with the amount of time they had. There's these really, really big staged machines, like the Metal Gears, that they, like, have these fight scenes against, and those act almost like a central fixture, where it's, like, the one that the maid pilots, the giant beta head in the end. It's like a centerpiece, right? It's like something that they're, like, revolving around. That's, like, that's setting the stage. The environments are not very complex. There's very rarely like bystanders or pedestrians around. There's not a lot of like prop detail, and a lot of it, when it is there, is just kind of like repetitive. Really, really basic like architecture and stuff. It kind of feels empty. The vocal performances mismatched the facial expressions. And finally, there is an excessive use of fog. X-Arm is a stage play.
God damn it.
To me, it all fits. I don't...
No,
Because, like, if it's a stage play, you don't need to really, like... Your expression doesn't matter because you're so far away from everyone. You know, like, it kind of matters, but what's more important is how you vocally deliver it for everyone who's out in the back rows. You know? You're live on stage, you can't actually hurt someone, so your ability to produce effects is limited by that. You clearly can't be ripping up costumes when you have to be reusing them night after night. Blood and liquids are hard to clean up, so it's like we're going to minimize that, or just strictly keep it like in some prop clothes that get washed, you know, so that it's like, oh, it's the stain from the inside, it's you know, it's not getting everywhere. Yeah, these big bland set pieces that the actors can move around. Yeah. Stage play.
Man, that's good. I dig that. I do want to mention one more thing from the manga. Just
sure.
I was kind of thinking about all the shitty things from the manga that happened. Because you mentioned ripping clothes and how the characters will have their clothes ripped during battles, and it's bad. It's terrible. There is a small part where they talk about religious fanaticism, and they put these bombs on people and they explode. And there's a girl that gets one of the bombs put on her, and in the manga, when she goes to explode, they stop her by freezing her in liquid nitrogen. So as she is being frozen and regretting her decision to join this cult, the manga does a panty shot of her while she's like frozen right before she explodes. And I just kind of want to point out how gross that is in almost every way, shape, and form.
That's like a kid too, right?
Yeah, it's real bad.
Ugh.
It's fucked. It's pretty great because she's frozen in liquid nitrogen and she doesn't die. The characters basically say, okay, now that she's frozen, she won't explode, so we'll disarm the bomb and thaw her out. It's pretty good. That shit's great. That part's bad. It's terrible. Like the manga's manga's garbage. Everything's garbage. So let's talk about some of them hypotheticals.
Okay. Do you want to save yours for last? Because you did tell me you have.
I do.
Okay, so here's my first one. You can't see how many eyes are on you beyond the blinding lights, but it's got to be hundreds. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you have a firing squad of microphones aimed at your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
A journalist stands up out among the crowd of people, and they pose a question, eager for your response. Excuse me, what does "I don't want to make it out the fake" mean?
Well, I looked.
The room is dead silent.
I looked at the reporter and I say, "Well, hello." You see, I don't.
That's it?
I don't want to make it out the fake. Simply means that I don't want to make out and it not be romantic. I don't want my makeouts to be fake. I need it to be emotional. I need to have some sort of passion behind it. So what I'm saying in this part is I do not want to have a false romance. Next question.
Oh, okay. If someone were to ask me, I think it would be like, as best as I could interpret it, that it would have something to do with like, oh, we want to be authentic, you know?
Right.
That's it.
Well, what's weird about that line? So that is the line from the opening for those who are unaware. Because the first lines are hello, I don't want to make it out the fake.
Mm-hmm.
That is not in the song. Like if you listen to Rise Again by Airflip, which is a banger of a song, that's not a lyric. That is only a lyric in the X-Arm version.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So and the
exclusive. Whoa.
Yeah, and the real version it goes straight into hello, we still fight together no matter how I'm feeling lonesomeness again.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and that has actual meaning behind it. That's a lyric. So it might actually have to do with like the understanding of androids and them not wanting to appear as false humans. I'm not trying to justify this terrible show, but I mean the Airflip is a good band. I've listened to actually a lot of their stuff. I think they're a solid group. I wonder if they changed the lyric because it has relevance to X-Arm.
It kind of feels like that. I can only assume. Only. That's it. God. That's weird to me that like they would change. Like it has that. I don't know of any other time where that's happened before.
Where they changed the opening?
Yeah, where but it was a song, but then they change it, like they re-record it for the anime.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. It's a totally different world.
God damn it.
It's a totally different world.
Okay. Next. Okay, this one is a toughie. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either wipe ex-vita and X-Arm out of existence, and then force the studio that did work on it to instead subject a different manga property to what will be a bad turnout, or you can free the studio from any kind of anime production and instead elevate ex-vita and X-Arm, the manga, to the current level of attention that the anime has. Not necessarily that like, oh, it's getting praise, but just that it's like it is as on the map as the anime is. What do you choose?
That's a tough one, because I do not wish Visual Flight any more pain that they've received from the show. But at the same time, I think that the world would be better off without X-Arm existing.
Right?
I'm gonna have to sacrifice Visual Flight for a little bit. They can make a terrible other anime and get rid of X-Arm. X-Arm's gone.
Mhm.
Get rid of it.
I think I have to agree with you.
I would like to see how a more I actually don't think that X-Arm would be picked up by any competent anime studio. I actually do not. I don't see Bones, Cloverworks, like Mappa or like Trigger doing it. I don't see anyone picking the show up. I can't.
A1 Pictures.
A1
Mike.
Pictures would pick this up. I just don't see how. I don't see how you could possibly make this show and fix it.
Mm-hmm. Especially because it's an older property too now. Like, it's like, what, 7 years old? 6 years old?
The manga came out in, I think the manga came out in 2015. I mean, or either 2015 or 2017. I don't think it's as old as I think it is. Oh, yeah, 2015. So, yeah, it's about 6 years old.
Yeah.
Oh,
damn.
it was published on Grand Jump. But yeah, so that's all I do have a question. So Brantley.
Yeah.
You are in your apartment, right?
Okay.
I am. You just defended your thesis and you did it. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
A letter slides under your door.
Okay.
It says,
I open and read it.
Yoshikatsu Kiyomura is no longer. You have been selected to make X-Arm Season 2. And you have to do it.
Who says?
I do. It's a hypothetical, man.
God damn it!
You are in charge of fixing X-Arm.
No, let me straighten this out. Am I fixing like the Blu-ray release of X-Arm, or like is it like X-Arm hasn't aired yet, or is it like X-Arm already happened, it was bad, do a season 2 and make this one better?
It's that. So X-Arm's canceled, right? We have covered, as far as I know, oh no, there is the sequel which I have not read and I don't plan on it, but we have covered all of X-Arm. And they want you to make an original season 2. You have unlimited budget.
Unlimited budget, huh?
Well, you have a blank check, like within reason. Like you can't just go and.
Mm-hmm.
But they want this to succeed. Crunchyroll is in dire straits because I'm a spider now, huh? Did not do as good as they thought it would.
Okay. Here's my plan. Number 1, don't get cocky. Number 2, make an O&A. Essentially, like, all right, we have to recover the like, not notoriety, like the image of this property, and we have to do it with potentially low morale. So we're gonna do like 7-minute episodes, really highly stylized. It's, we're gonna do like essentially like pose to pose model stuff, and potentially, if we have the staff for it, draw over that with 2D images. Lots of post processing, and essentially let the voice performances carry that. We're gonna totally undercut development so that we have time to polish it and make sure that we essentially convert what was, wow, that was so amazingly bad, into, hey, that was better than we expected. That's my plan. Realistically.
That's a plan. I think that works.
The funny answer is nosedive. Fuck that property. We're gonna get on the fucking Twitter map again.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. All right. Well, I have literally nothing to say about X-Arm from here on out. I will continue to tweet at them.
We have exhausted our thoughts on the topic.
That's pretty good. I'm gonna tweet at X-Arm for quite some time now, until they give me the rights to season 2, in which I'll hand it over to Brantley and he can he can do what he will. Hey Brantley.
Yeah.
What's next?
What's next? I actually don't know. I assume we're not doing Wonder Egg next because we want to wait.
I thought finishing Wonder Egg, I did want to talk a little bit about it, but I think that there's no justice that can be done until we know how it ends.
Yeah, I agree. So in that case,
we're gonna be doing Symphogear G next. Our Symphogear episode did pretty well. And I enjoy watching Symphogear, and I enjoy subjecting Brantley to the goofy whack shit that is Symphogear.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for joining us for this episode of X-Arm. If you liked what you heard, or episode of Familiar Territory about X-Arm, fuck. If you like what you heard, you can comment, subscribe. You can follow us on Twitter, or check out our My Anime list to see what the shows we've done.
Hey, thank you for listening through this and sticking with us. You know, even with like weird episodes like this, we appreciate that you've apparently listened to the end, or at least skipped to the end to hear what we had to say.
Yep.
So it feels good knowing that we stand together.
Stop it. Fucking stop.
End of this shit. We're done. Get us out of here. Last thing. Say your thing.
Thank you for listening. You don't need to do anything we said because we are not a live actor director who just decided to make an anime.